What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. This is the Deep Corner. This is episode 49, I think. It's been a while since we've done one of these, but we are back. We're getting back into the show leading up to the 2022 VLA season. I'm Rob St. Clair, if you're new to the show, and a huge guest, a very special guest to welcome us back into the podcasting deal. She has been all over the volleyball and physical world this year, doing all sorts of cool volleyball things. Miss Key Michael, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Rob, thank you so much for having me. You messaged me the other day and you were like, let's do a podcast. And I couldn't have been more excited. I remember I had to send you an actual voice note to let you know the enthusiasm that was coming across in my voice. Yes, Rob, whatever you need from me, I'm there. You've literally been the reason I've been making any good content is all thanks to you, because I just, watch your stuff and then I just kind of regurgitate
it. Well, thank you. The same to you. You've had an awesome year, and I love everything that you've put out. It's been a big year for volleyball, really, for both of us. We've both been all over the place. So before we get into all the cool places you've been this year, what are you up to lately? Where are you right now, and what have you kind of been up to since the Olympics?
Things are good. Been drinking my coffee, sitting here, hanging out in Miami with my family. Yeah, I after the Olympics, like you said, just needed a break. Just needed a little time off, a little time out from the volleyball world. And I've actually been renovating my parents' home. I've been considering starting a DIY YouTube channel. Like, I don't know what's going on in my life, but I feel that I always need to be videotaping it for some reason. So if my YouTube channel turns from volleyball content into DIY, you'll know why.
Hey, I don't think anyone would complain about that. Well, I mean, yeah, I've been kind of similar. That people haven't heard from me on this show in a while, but I've been all over the place. Like, I covered mostly the USA men at the Olympics on Instagram pretty heavily. I did a lot for European Championships with the CV, who we both work with on the side a little bit. European Championships are over. We're hopping back into like the club scene and Champions League men's and women's now. So I've been all over the place too. But it's cool to get back into really my own content and your own content that I've enjoyed a little bit of time off, but we've both had really busy years, and you've done so much cool stuff. You played in and vlogged the heck out of Athletes Unlimited in Texas.
Vlogged the heck out of it. I couldn't have put it better myself. Just vlogged the heck out of it,
which was so awesome.
I was like, I'm here to play volleyball, but also Jordan Larson, Sheila Castro. Like, if I don't make a vlog with these women, I would be kicking myself. But literally all of the girls that were on the team, all the women were amazing people and athletes, and the setup was such that I was able to focus on both. I mean, I don't know how much your listeners know about Athletes Unlimited, but it's really focused on the athletes first and foremost and helping them be the best version of themselves. So yes, that means volleyball players, but also helping them in life. So I was, I had my camera everywhere I went, and they supported me on that. They were like, yes, make content, be a better videographer, get skills, grow skills as a human. So there's a lot of my YouTube channel benefited from it.
And it was awesome. You're not kidding. The star power that was there that you got to feature was pretty amazing. And I want to talk about that a lot later as we get more into like the American professional volleyball idea that we're obviously focused on the VLA level. But you also did one of the coolest things I've ever seen, and you hopped into the bubble in Rimini, Italy to commentate Volleyball Nations League, men and women. The COVID situation brought every team in the world into a bubble for like a month with matches literally every day. And you were doing, which pretty much my dream job of just sitting there and talking about volleyball on a mic, which was the coolest thing ever. And you did a good job.
It was thank you very much. It was so cool. I was scared. Can I say the S word? I was scared. So scared before I started doing it, because I've never really commented before. I think I've done a couple of matches here and there, and they were like, here you go, let's just throw you in the deep end of like the best volleyball level in the world. 2 matches a day for a month straight. My mind was exploding, and you were such a huge help in that, because we got in the Discord together, and I know you were already making content anyway, but just learning all of the players and the volleyball stuff, I think we know innately as players. It comes to you easily to talk about volleyball, but there's a lot of little details that I think people don't notice, and then the pressure that's on you to not mess up someone's name or not, call out the wrong play as it's happening. But I think it went well. It went smoothly. And again, another chance to just vlog some of the best players in the world. I remember I got some of these guys on my channel, and I just remember thinking like, did I just have a conversation with Wilfredo Leon from my YouTube channel? Like, what is life right now?
So yeah, if that doesn't make you want to follow Key's Instagram and YouTube channel to hear just chat with the best player on the planet, then I don't know. On the planet, then I don't know what kind of volleyball fan you are. Go follow this lady. So,
and if anyone's a fan of Alessandro Micheletto, who's been making a name for himself, and I say we because I include you and Dan in this, we gave him this nickname of the unicorn, and I feel as though that's gonna go. That has to hold on. That has to stick.
I completely agree. I give Dan more credit than I give myself. If anyone hasn't followed the European volleyball show that I do for the CEV, and our buddy Dan Manili, who is awesome, who's actually been on this show. He works for the CEV, and we were watching this 19-year-old 7-foot left-handed Italian outside hitter for Trentino in club season. We're like, who is this kid? Like, what is happening right now? And why is he so good at everything? And so Dan, I think he gets more the credit for this. Dan nicknamed him the unicorn. And then you took it and ran with it at VNL. And now I think the whole world, that's kind of what they call him. And I love it so much. It's too good.
Rightly so, because it's kind of like in basketball, right? The unicorn is the guy who can dribble, he can shoot, he can do threes. He just has the ball control, but the height of a center and the ball control of a point. I'm not a basketball person, so I'm obviously just throwing out words here that I don't actually know what they mean.
You nailed it.
But he's absolutely incredible. And I do hope that sticks.
Yeah, I think that it will. So I watched so much of VNL because like that's what I do. I just sit around and watch volleyball. And I have several questions about what it was just like to be there. You were talking to me earlier before we started recording about just the quality of the event, because watching it from a distance, they did such a good job like creating the atmosphere in the house with like two identical courts that were next to each other. If I perceived that correctly. With no fans in there, but they still made it feel like, with all the lights and the ambient sound and the in-arena like voice and the music and all that stuff, they made it feel like an unbelievable, like top-level professional event for all of us that were not able to be in the bubble watching from far away, even though there was nobody there. And that I was really, really impressed by. So from you being there, what was the difference in producing an event in person like that turned out looking so good on the broadcasts?
Man, that's a really good question. I feel like I'm not equipped to answer that because I wasn't, in that creation, in the department creating the visuals of it. But I know that so many people were there. It felt like as many athletes were there, there were, just as many, if more, people creating the event. And when I say all the athletes, I mean every single team. But yeah, it was exactly like you described. There was, it was this big exhibition hall basically. And there were a lot of rooms that were empty around the actual courts themselves, but anyone who was watching it will know what it looked like. But yeah, they kind of shut off there were no empty seats. So they really made it like a TV show. So on one side was where all of the people that were working, commentators, people that were doing the Hawkeye, cameras, etc. And the stage was literally surrounded by blackness and lights and colored lights, and might as well have had smoke machines at some point. I think they did. And the DJ, and it really, they did such a great job of making it feel like an event that had an atmosphere and a crowd without having a single person in the gym. And they had to split it off, so people weren't allowed to be close to each other. We weren't allowed to interact with the players. Even the other players weren't allowed to come and watch the matches of their friends. Like, there was such a divide. Like, it was very strict. It was very strict, but they did a good job.
Yeah, it was very strict, but it turned out incredibly well on camera, at least from those of us watching from far away. So that I'm glad you talked about like kind of what the players' experiences were off the court, because it was so strict. And we've heard a lot from people that were at the Olympics, like with pretty similar feedback. It was strict for good reason. Like you have to be in where the world's at right now. But it was crazy to hear some of these things that those of us who aren't like current Olympic volleyball players wouldn't have known. My question is about what it was like on the court, because like volleyball, like I've talked about a million times in the show, I think is the greatest in-person spectator sport of all time. Watching it in real life is so much indescribably better than watching it on TV. It's not even funny. And then when you get the energy of a crowd that's really into it, like watching all the European championships the last few weeks, of the fans being back in Poland in particular was just ridiculous. I'm so jealous of people who just get to go to matches like that and have 20,000 people that know and love volleyball just losing their minds at what's going on. So for the players, and even for you commentating, what was the vibe like? The energy, the difference in how the volleyball players were reacting to playing in that event without the fans that they were kind of used to playing in front of for the whole careers.
Man, that's an interesting one. I mean, as I wasn't an actual player on the court, I can't tell you exactly, but my feelings were that as I have been a player for so long, I know that when you start the match, you know there's a crowd and you can kind of see it and feel it. But once you get into the match, you're really like blinders are on, you know, and you're with your team and you can hear each other and your coach and you see what's going on the other side of the court. But the actual fan, like there's a presence, but it doesn't, I don't know how to explain it. I don't think that it took away from anything not having fans there. I think we as humans, we adapt, right? That's what we do. Yeah. So players as well, they're just adapting to the fact that there's no real live noise on the court and they're just playing off of their teammates' energies or the energy that's coming from a big block on the other side of the court, or the coach that they have a rivalry with, which is a real thing apparently with some of the coaches and players at the VNL, which I didn't even know about. But you know, there's always something to latch onto to get your energy from. So if it's not actually the physical fans in the crowd, I think the players have done a good job of adapting and getting their energy feeding off of something else, whatever it is.
That's a really good answer. The part of it, I think, was that they had played a club season right before that where there were no fans. I think it was the adaptation didn't have to come right there at the VNL. I think people had started to figure out kind of how it works. But volleyball is such an energy-based game and such a momentum-based game that taking that energy from slightly different places actually, I think, makes a pretty big difference. I think the benches, from what I was seeing at VNL, the benches really took a more active role in being the source of their team's energy. Because like a home crowd will do that for you. You don't have to work that hard. But the benches really, I thought, went out of their way to get really into certain things.
Yeah, definitely. And there was still also like, there was that vibe of all being there together, even though maybe, you know, Germany wasn't in the same gym as Italy or whatever at the same time, there's that feeling of like all these teams are here, the whole world of volleyball is watching these matches because they're accessible online for like $10, I think it was, to watch the entire month of volleyball.
Which is an absolute
so anyone who was
steal.
Interested in it had no excuse not to.
Right.
All the cameras and the lights and the music, I think.
Yeah, the production was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So you were there. You're one of the few people that got to be there. The one thing that I would always wonder about myself, if I got the chance to commentate matches like that in person, I feel like I would
will eventually, because you're great at what you do.
Thank you. Which I hope that I will. But I think that I'm worried that I might get paralyzed by how cool it is to see it all in real life. So give me one player from each gender, a men's player and a women's player, that you saw in VNL that really blew you away, especially maybe compared to the other incredible players that were there.
Oh my gosh, that is an impossible question to answer. Just one. Okay, well, I will agree with you. There were definitely some nerves, you know, totally different nerves as a commentator than there were for me as a player, because as a player I'd had, you know, once you get to that level, you've had years of experience doing it, and you know your teammates trust you, and your coach puts you there for a reason, and you're kind of like going through the motions. Whereas this time, it was the first time really for me that I was sitting on the sidelines doing the commenting, and once the mic is on, you know, there's no like redos, there's no scratch, start over. It's very fast, high pace. So there was already the nerves of that, and then on top of it, like you said, seeing players that I've maybe only ever seen on TV in front of me. And I mean, literally like as close as I am to my computer right now, I could literally reach out and touch the sweat on them. There were some moments where I was a little bit starstruck. I mean, seeing Bruno play, he's from Brazil. Any of the players. Yeah. Gabby, another one who I had spoken to on the CEV podcast for Brazil as well. I mean, I could throw out a bunch of just like star names, but once they started to play and I realized, oh, they're humans just like the rest of us, then I lost those nerves and it all kind of started to flow.
Yeah, that man, I can only imagine how cool it was to be there. The level at VNL was really, really high. I thought it was really interesting as the teams that were going to go to the Olympics later this summer versus the teams that didn't, and how everybody kind of managed their lineups and managed their rosters, and like how seriously they took the tournament in terms of trying to win every match versus trying to build for something later. Me and Dan and Everett and all the guys broke that down extensively on our various shows about like, here's why Team USA is playing a garbage lineup right now, or like stuff like that. Here's why Italy sent a B team to this whole tournament. And but some of the players and some of the performances that we saw were really pretty ridiculous. I thought the Slovenian men were really impressive at VNL.
Rock Mazic is one of my new favorite people. And what a cool name.
That's maybe the coolest name in volleyball. Dan has been high on Rock Mazic for a long time, and he got some like on-court video at Eurovolley a few months ago of him doing hitting lines, and said he's the most ridiculous hitting lines player he's ever seen.
Really?
Rock Mazic, for the people who don't know, is like, how old is he? 19, 20?
19, something
super
like that.
young.
He's another one of those freak young superstars up and coming. One of the
Slovenian,
names that kind of got big at the VNL.
Yes, he did. So young Slovenian outside hitter. Make sure you know that name because he's going to be all over the volleyball world pretty shortly.
And Slovenia in general, I was like, for the CEV as well, when they were doing European volley, we had a podcast before that. And my one sort of contribution was, don't sleep on Slovenia. They are, you know, the world as a large, they're not one of the big names. You know, they're not Italy, they're not whoever, Russia, but they're
Russia,
they're going to do some big things. And
that was a great call because they went on to go and get second at the tournament, and they knocked Poland out on their home court, which was insane. I thought Slovenia was really good. I thought, what did you think of France, watching the French men, watching them in person? Did you have any idea, watching them in person, that they could then go on and win an Olympic gold medal like a month later?
I don't think I would have called it, but again, with the fact that they were all switching up rotations, and you know, some people would also say things like, you know, Ngapeth is kind of past his prime, he's looking a little slower, but he's still the kind of player that'll turn it on in the moments when he needs to. I may
have had that take. I may have been guilty of that.
So I don't think I would have pegged them for gold, but I definitely saw some sparks, and they just turned it on in the right moments.
Yes, they did. What's Wilfredo Leon like in real life, to watch how hard he hits the ball? Did you do the match that he had 13 aces?
No, I didn't do that one, but there was a lot of chatter about it afterwards, and then we referred to it, I think, every match from there on. I don't think anyone went through an entire commentary session without mentioning those 13 aces. He seemed like a really cool guy. I mean, very calm. I also did a podcast with him for the CEV, so that's why
which was very fun to listen to.
Confident going up to him and asking to be on my vlog. I sound like such a dork saying vlog, but you know.
I loved that episode that you did with Wilfredo. His English is pretty good. That dude's got to speak like 6 languages. He's crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Perfect English, and super nice guy. And that's what I mean about everyone's just human. I think you and I and anyone else who's a fan of whether it be volleyball, football, any other sport, you see people on the big screen doing what they do. They're amazing at it. Cool. Awesome. But then once they kind of take that uniform off, the Superman jersey, let's say, they're still just Clark Kent underneath. They're just humans that, want to have friends, that want to play Xbox, that want to like scroll through Instagram, whatever it is that everyone likes to do. They're just humans. And I think the volleyball community in particular, they're really kind people. I don't think anyone is too big for their britches. There aren't really divas or superstars the way they are in other sports where people literally get put on a pedestal by bazillions of people.
That's a great point, and I totally agree with that. You've gotten to talk to and meet a lot more crazy cool volleyball people than I have, but I've still felt the same thing. Even the superstars in the US that I've met, it's very much like that. Like when they take off the jersey, they're someone with friends and a family, and they want to kick back and drink some beers off the court or like whatever it is. And I love meeting and hanging out with people like that. It's just so cool. So
for sure.
After VNL, you got to spend a little bit of time in the gym with the USA women in Southern California before the Olympics. Is that correct? Do I have the timing correct on that?
I actually went out there twice. So I went out there before the VNL and then again after the VNL. And we had originally planned to go out after the Olympics as well. But I don't know if everyone knows it, but as soon as the team got back to California, they all split up. That was like the last for them. So they were on their free time then. So we weren't able to time it perfectly to get everyone to sit down together again. So we're hoping to get back and do it again, maybe once they get back together next year. But yeah, we went out there twice, and I was working with High Price and Adidas to basically we wanted to tell their story, just sit down with some of the players and say, hey, we don't get an intimate look into volleyball that often. What are some of the hardships of being a professional athlete? I don't know if your listeners know this, but most of the players have to go overseas for 8 to 10 months a year. Then they have the full national team season. It's a really grueling process.
Yeah. And we talk about that a lot. We talk about the schedule and the life of a professional volleyball player a lot for why perhaps a league here in the US needs to be more of a real option. But anyway,
it would be amazing if it were to really come to fruition. Right. But that's what the players, then people, the grand stage is the Olympics. And when people, and I say not necessarily specifically volleyball fans, but just people that are watching the Olympics don't really realize all the sacrifices that have gone on for this one tiny little moment in time in history.
Right.
And for the women especially, they had never gotten gold. They'd always been one of the best in the world, but it was just that last little icing on the cake that they were really going for this time, and they did it. And I get goosebumps just talking about it, because they when you say like, oh yeah, they can do it, but then they actually do it.
So I've had a couple Olympians on my show. I've had a couple guys from the 2008 American men's team that won. And I asked the question of them, at what point in that run in 2008 that they made, which was one of the greatest of all time, at what point did you believe that your team could and perhaps would win Olympic gold? And you were with the American women this year before VNL, which they went out and won, and then before the Olympics, which they also went out and won in record-breaking and unbelievable fashion. From your perspective, what was the point for that team at which they believed that their goal of Olympic gold was really, really achievable?
Ooh, interesting question. I can't answer that with certainty because I'm not in the minds, but I think the US team, I can't read your mind. They did a lot of mental work, as well as the physical, the nutrition, all of the things that go into being the best volleyball players they could be. They went one step further, and they were really working that mental game, just belief in themselves, belief in the process, belief in the team as a whole, which I don't know that every team, if I look at, Russia or someone, do they do that kind of thing? Or are they just a collaboration of individual players?
Incredible players.
I don't know, because I'm not in their gym either. But I know for sure that the US team, especially the women's under Karch, put so much emphasis on this trusting the process. We're all just bigger as a unit than as one individual player. So whatever it is you have to put aside, your egos or what it is that's best for you, whatever is best for the team, that's first and foremost. And so that includes doing this mental work and this belief that they would have had for this entire 4-year cycle, not just at any particular moment in the last couple of months.
That's a really good point. And I mean, you played in the Olympics. You played in the Olympics in London in 2012, and you've played volleyball at a really, really high level. And I want to hear you confirm this take that I've always had, that I think volleyball is the most team sport of all time. The level of trust that you have to have in your teammates, especially at the level of the Olympics, to take you from good to great or from great to gold medal, makes all the difference in the world. So you can only touch the ball for a split second at a time. There's only so much like individual or selfishness that you can possibly have in the game, because you can't individually have that much control, which is part of why it's so cool. But like that, the team mentality and the trust and the really sacrificial aspect of that USA women's team really came across to me as I was watching them. They had 2 pretty key injuries in that tournament that they overcame without missing a beat, which was unbelievable. Like you lose your starting setter, Micah Hancock, who's amazing, comes in and runs a perfectly good offense and gets them back to the point where Jordan Poulter comes back in. They win gold medal. Jordan Thompson goes down really early, who is the leading point scorer for the team the whole time. And my girl, Annie Drews, comes in and plays the rest of the tournament, and they win a gold medal. Like it was it was incredible that no egos interfered with the goal of winning that gold medal, and just of how their personalities worked and how they mentally approached that tournament. And I agree with you. I'm not sure if every other team in the world really puts that much of an emphasis on that. That was so fascinating.
Yeah, I remember a specific, Annie was one of the girls that we sat down with for that, we chose 5 players, and she was one of the ones that we sat down with for that in-depth documentary, let's call it. And I remember having one specific thing she said that really stuck out to me was that, you know, if someone were to ask me, would I rather go to the Olympics and not play or stay home and the team win gold? And honestly, I don't know. I want both. And that's such a hard thing to struggle with as an athlete. You want to be, you know, you want to be there. You want to be the one to score the points. But if it's at the expense of not, you know, the team not doing as well. But then she ends up getting both anyway. She gets her cake and eats it too. She gets to be the one who's chosen for the team. You know, she gets to step up and play and prove that she's good enough. And then they get to win the gold medal on top of it. It was just like all of the things manifested themselves for her. And I was just like, I love that. Just love that for her. And I love that for any of those players that were willing to put themselves second, but then for the good of the team, and it worked.
And it worked. Yeah, I've known Annie for years. She and I were the same age at Purdue, and I was in the gym with the girls for 5 seasons. So I played with her for years, got to know her really well, and her career trajectory is pretty fascinating. Like, she got in the gym with the national team just at the right time. She was less than a week away from giving up the game professionally, and then she wins MVP of the VNL in 2019, and like ends up being a starter on a gold medal team in the Olympics. It's pretty incredible. How about the on-court stuff for the USA women from your perspective? Because they were the most balanced women's team I've ever seen. Ever. It was unbelievable how offensively they incorporated so many different people. If one person wasn't producing at, I don't know, 500 efficiency or like whatever, like Paola Egona usually does for Italy, like they didn't have a player like that, and they didn't need one. And I think the women's game right now, especially on the club level, is dominated by these young, unbelievable opposites who score 40 points a game, and if they don't have their best stuff, you have no chance. Sort of like how the US completely shut down Tijana Boskovic of Serbia in the semifinals. Like, they completely took her out of that game, and Serbia had no chance. The US was so balanced on the court. What was your perspective on that, like their on-court play style compared to kind of the rest of the field in the Women's Olympics?
I think that point that you make is pretty spot on. When you think of any of the other teams, one name comes to mind.
Right.
When you say Italy, Egoni. When you say Serbia, you say Boskovic. When I say Korea, Kim. You know, take a pick. Any of the other teams kind of have one standout player. Not to take anything away from the other players, but I think the US, they're much more spread out. You know, Haley Washington was dominating through the middle. Jordan Larson, as always, was just scoring at will.
Well-deserved MVP of the Olympics, yes.
Exactly. Like, she is one of those players who doesn't look fancy and flashy, and she's not going to, you know, bounce the ball into the 3-meter line. She's just going to score the point, you know, which at the end of the day, the more points you score, you win the game. So I think that, like you said, they just had a more balanced all areas of the game, I think, than
I agree. Yeah, I thought Feluca Akinrado was awesome. So good to see her back. I think Justine Wong-Orantes really made a name for herself that tournament. Her
another player who's not super flashy.
Yep.
Maybe no one even really knew who she was coming in, and then just perfectly delivered in her area.
She was awesome. She made so many really, really good reads, and there were points like I've played a lot of positions. I've played everything except libero. I don't really speak the language of that position. I think it's impossible what they do. But I do love when you can look at a point and say that point wouldn't have been scored by that team if it weren't for a play that the libero made. And there were a lot of those that Justine contributed to the USA women, and I love that. I think liberos deserve that.
And along that kind of same vein is that we've got to give credit to the coaching staff there. You know, the players know where to be because the coaches have watched hours and hours and hours and broken down every single detail of every player on every other team, what they're going to do in what situation. And, you know, it makes the reading part of it much easier. So the players then, they know, okay, yes, half of it is just feeling the game, but a lot of it is we've watched all the video. The coaches have broken it down for us to the extent where we know when we're in the right place or not.
And I think that like all the credit that Karch has gotten for the way he engineered that team, all of which is deserved because he's just unbelievable. The rest of the staff deserves just as much. Like whenever you heard a timeout for the women, it wasn't really Karch talking, it was Luca who did all of the scouting about rotations and where they're going to go here, what shot they're going to hit, the nuts and bolts, like the X's and O's in timeouts, all came from him. And even for the USA men, that kind of works similar. Like Sparrow doesn't talk the whole time in the men's timeouts. If there's something about a rotation, it'll come from Furbringer or from Thornton or someone else, and that's awesome. I think that's something that the USA system, men's and women's, probably does better than anyone else in the world in terms of like how they construct the whole staff and everyone's roles and the maturity that and the confidence they try to instill in their players without like berating them or trying to make choices for them. They just do their best to prepare them, and they kind of let them go out there and do their thing. And it worked really well for the women. It did not work as well for the men. And I wanted to ask you about that too, because man, and I covered this like crazy throughout the summer. The USA men, who might be my favorite sports team on the planet. I care more about the USA men's success, even maybe more so than the Green Bay Packers, which everyone who knows me knows that it's quite the thing to say. The disappointment of this summer for the USA men was kind of crushing for somebody who loves them so much. And watching them prepare this summer, like the way that they handled VNL, the roster choices at the Olympics, and then just when they got there, the big matches they played against great competition, they just weren't quite able to deliver when the sets got close and their backs got against the wall. It was so different than how the women performed when they were pushed, but the way that they were prepared wasn't that different. So I was struggling to put my finger on a reason for the failure versus the reason for the women's success. But from all that you watched this summer, just give me your general take on the summer that the USA men had, and then we can maybe break it down a little further.
That's a tough one because I don't know the inner workings of the team quite as intimately as I feel like I do. I don't necessarily do with the women, but having been there in the gym and having sat down face to face personally, I've been able to ask some of them these questions. I really only have a handful of friends on the men's team that I would, pick up the phone and be like, hey, what's up with what, but I would never say, hey, what happened? Because as an athlete myself, I know there's really nothing you can say. You put all your hard work into it. You do your best. And sometimes it's not your day. Sometimes, you're missing a player. Sometimes whatever it is, Venus is in retrograde. I don't know. And it's only a couple of points here or there that can make the difference between going on to the next stage or not. And for the men, like, I don't know that I'm sure that they went in with everything, giving everything they could. But if you were to ask them, like, honestly, 100, tell me, give it to me straight. Do you think you're going to win gold? I don't know how many of them would have said yes, but the women were like stone cold. Yes. This is our year. So maybe that's a half reality check and half, positivity. I don't know, but
that's a great point. And I've thought about this so much, but I'm not sure I've really ever thought of that, where like if you ask them before the tournament or before, like in the last several years, well, I think the last several years, if you had asked them in like 2017 or 18 if they were going to win gold in 2020, they honestly may have said yes. But then so many things happened. Right. The Olympics got pushed back a year. Aaron Russell got hurt. That was a big one. I mean, Taylor Sanders was hurt for a long time, and then he came back for this Olympics. Like, there was so much going on. But before this Olympics, you're right. If you had asked him, like, do you think that you're going to win gold this Olympics? I don't think the answer would have been nearly as confident as the women's was.
Mm-hmm.
So and I talked about this a lot when I was breaking it down. Serving was a huge problem, like on court stuff. Serving was a big problem. Transition offense wasn't as good as it needed to be. I didn't think the play of the middles was quite as good as it needed to be. I thought Taylor Sanders was amazing. I thought TJ DeFalco was more than good enough. It's tough to like pinpoint anything in those like on-court areas, because like you said, they're all giving every single thing that they have. But I wanted to ask about something that Dan and I talk about a lot throughout this summer, And that's the idea of pressure and expectations and how they impact a team in a given tournament, or like just how that affects them, the way that they play and feel on the court. Because the Olympic men's side, at least, I thought was kind of dominated by that storyline. Poland versus France in the quarterfinals. Poland had all the pressure. Poland was expected. They really, it was a do or die summer for them. They were probably the favorites to win the Olympic gold. I thought that they had all the pressure, and I thought that the way that they played, they looked like they felt pressure on their shoulders. And the way that France played throughout that entire run towards the gold, they never looked like that. In every match that they played, they're like, cool, like we're here, we're gonna go out and play this match and have a blast, and what happens. That's the vibe I got from them the whole time. The USA looked crippled by pressure. The USA men, especially against Argentina, and I think some of the players on various like podcasts and stuff have come out and said that since. Like they're like, yeah, the way we played in that last match against Argentina that they ended up losing to miss out on advancing, they're like, yeah, the pressure we felt was crushing, and if it weren't for that, it really would have been a different game. But from your experience as a player and just from watching this summer, what is that like, even especially at the Olympics? How does the pressure of expectations or of the fear of failure or whatever it is affect a player and a team in a tournament like that?
I guess I should start off by clarifying that my experience at the Olympics was a very different experience than the USA men's national team.
It was.
I think there's a lot to be said for being the underdog, because, for example, when I was at the Olympics, I was playing for GB. We were just happy to be there. We were soaking up the experience. We had never really played at that level against those kind of that tier of that caliber of player before, that caliber of team. So just to be there was a win, you know, and I was just kind of just enjoying it and playing our hearts out and with no expectations. So everything above and beyond was a bonus. We won one match. Yep. Incredible bonus. Whereas if you go into the exact same situation, and this is, you know, this is life lesson. If your attitude changes everything. If you go into, you know, for example, my sister, yesterday we were driving and someone hit us with their car, and we very easily could have been like, this is we're in the world. What have you done? You a-hole, beep, beep, beep. But instead we got out. We're like, hey man, is everything okay? Like, it happens. No worries. We'll figure it out. And on we go with our day. It just, the way that you look at any situation in life changes everything. So back to your point about pressure, if you go into the exact same moment thinking, I have to win, I have to get this serve over, we're supposed to win, we're like, what's going to happen if we don't, blah, blah, blah. Whereas the flip side of that is, this is great. We get a chance to play the best in the world. Look how awesome this is. Look at the lights and let's go and give our everything. It just, the entire situation changes. So I totally understand what they mean about pressure being crippling, and being the underdog is just, you have nothing but positive to gain from being there.
I think that's a huge reason why France won gold. They knew their coach was retiring. They knew that this was sort of the last ride for a group that's been together for so long. And even though that France has had a lot of failure and disappointment the last few years, they didn't make it out of the pools in 2016 at the Olympics, and that was a big problem for them. But I think they approached this Olympics with the exact mindset that you talked about of, this is so cool. Like, this is such a great opportunity for us. Like, our coach, Laurent Tully, who we love, is retiring after this tournament. Let's like just take advantage of this while we have it. Versus, I think Poland, Vital Heinen knew he was probably coaching for his job in that tournament. The guys really felt the pressure from the federation, like from all the fans thinking, you guys really should be the best team in the world on paper. You need to go out and win this tournament. I think Argentina felt that in a positive way. A lot of why they won bronze. Like, nobody thought that they were going to do anything like that. And then they went out.
How cool that Facundo Conte's dad was in the stadium there as well.
That was amazing. And I hated Argentina for beating the US in pools, but like once they beat Italy, and then I was definitely rooting for them to beat Brazil for bronze just because of the storylines. And then seeing that moment with Facundo and his dad, like, that's what it's all about right there. That was so phenomenally cool to see. And then that same idea, I thought, carried over to Eurovolley this year. So for those who don't follow European volleyball, a very, very young Italian team won the European Championship for the men, which should not have happened, in my opinion. They beat Slovenia in the final, and Slovenia beat Poland in the semifinal in a tournament that was in Poland. And I thought in both of those matches, the pressure thing totally held up. I thought Poland had all the pressure against Slovenia. But then in the finals, Slovenia had all the pressure against Italy because Italy, this is a young Italian team that wasn't supposed to be good for another 1, maybe even 2 Olympic cycles. And so Slovenia was like, oh yeah, we should beat this team. This is our chance to win one of these. And they lost an enclosed 5-setter. Whereas like Poland, once they got to the bronze medal match, they're like, pressure's off. They dominated a good Serbian team. I thought like, it was textbook. The team who felt the most pressure lost the matches when they mattered. It was really weird to see all that.
Yeah, but great. I mean, I'm proud of both. I was going to say all because I feel like there were 4 Italian teams that bounced back after the Olympics, having not a great show. And then I think it was both the women's teams, and then the women and men's teams, and then the under 20s women, under 21 men's, or something like that.
That's correct. Yeah. So which was ridiculous. Yeah. So Italian women and men both won European championships after kind of disappointments in the Olympics, and then their youth teams at U20 girls and U21 boys won the world championships recently at those levels. Like that's insane. And I felt happy for Italy in that too. And I was blown away by the level of volleyball that they showed for their ages and what the expectations were. And it was really fun to watch.
And also, I mean, thinking, more on a smaller level, those same players that were at the VNL, it was the young Italian team. They've had a long summer. They were performing at the VNL, and then they were going to the Olympics, and then they were going to the Europeans, and then they were going to the under 21, like basically the same team. Maybe not exactly the same team, but like a few of those players, the unicorn, for example, he's had a heavy summer. He's got a lot of heavy lifting. He must
played in the finals of Champions League right before that. Yeah, he played like Champions League super finals in really early May, VNL, Olympics, winning Euro volley with winning Euro volley with 2 aces in the 5th set, fulfilling a promise to his buddies for U21 World Championships. Like that's a lot of volleyball. And now he's straight back to Trentino for another club season.
I'm super pumped that he's going to be number 5 going forward, because that was my number that I always wore through.
Oh, it was?
Well.
Cool. Yeah. That actually is a question in my rapid fire segment about jersey numbers. So you're
you're
ahead of the game on that one. So speaking of which, I think it's time. I feel like we've rambled a lot. If anyone's still listening, wow, congratulations to you. I think they'd be
Rob
crazy
and I are just geeking out on volleyball.
That's what we do on this show. That's what it's all about.
I love it.
So you have a sort of a rapid fire segment on the Ace Space, which everyone should go find and subscribe to. The CEV puts on that podcast with a bunch of really cool players, and Key and Dan and like Louie and Dave and some other cool characters that we know. But I have one of my own, and you get to go. That's right. You get to go through my rapid fire gauntlet now. So prepare yourself.
Gosh, okay.
And give.
My hands are already sweating.
Yep. Just quick answers. First thing that comes to your mind. All right. Early mornings or late nights?
Late nights.
Duh. Great answer.
Duh. Because coffee.
Right. What's your favorite pregame warm-up song or artist? Like what kind of music do you listen to warm up to a game?
Oh gosh. Okay. I'm the worst person to ask for this. I just, whatever is on a Spotify playlist. I don't have anything particular.
Fair enough.
I'll just listen to whatever's on in the locker room as well. Sure. Whatever the other players are dancing to.
There it is.
I'm up for it.
What's the best day of the week?
Game day? Whatever day game day is.
I've been waiting for somebody to give that answer, and you're the first person who said game day, and I love that so much. Thank
because
you.
I was thinking in my head, I don't have a particular routine right now, and as a player, it could have been a Wednesday, it could have been a Tuesday, it could have been a Sunday. Whatever day you get to put a jersey on.
Yes. I've been waiting for somebody to answer game day, and you just made me so happy with that. That was great.
I knew we were going to be best friends. I knew we were going to be best friends, Rob.
Stuff block or service ace?
Stuff block.
And yeah, you were a middle.
I'm a middle. Yeah. I had like one ace in my life.
What's your favorite post-game meal?
Pizza?
Good one.
Probably not. I mean, only because my favorite post-game meals happened in Italy. Like playing in Italy was like the best. That was like the highlight of my career. At 2 years I played at Busto, and it was just always pizza. It was either pizza or pasta, but it was a pizza restaurant that we would go to as a team.
Speaking of which, how good was the food in the bubble in Italy?
Oh, it was pretty good. Yeah. I mean, we were only able to eat in our hotel or at the venue, but all the food's amazing in Italy always.
It's incredible. I can't wait to go back. What is the hardest position in volleyball?
Scout man.
Good one, but on court, I'm not letting you get away with that.
Oh dear. Hardest position. I don't want to say middle because I don't think it's, even though I'm a middle, I don't think it's middle. It's probably outside hitter because they have to carry a lot of the weight.
Have to do everything.
Yeah, they got to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Favorite jersey number? You already talked about that.
5.
Why 5? Is there a story behind that?
There isn't really. No, I wish there was a cool story. I just started wearing it when I was in high school and then continued. And I just got really lucky. My every single professional season except the very last one, I was number 5.
You got to wear 5.
And I was like, well, no, I have to retire now. I
can't wear it anymore. I'm the same. I'm very, very, very attached to jersey numbers. And you just feel different when you're not wearing the one that you're used to.
Yeah. I mean, for no particular reason, but
right.
We're all just weird creatures of habit.
Totally. I totally. Cats or dogs or both?
Cats.
Yes, I love cats. I haven't had nearly enough cat people on this show.
I'm a cat person all day long. My parents have 3 dogs and no cats, but I think they adopt dogs, so they come with weird personality quirks. Like, I don't know if you can hear one barking in the background right now.
I can't.
But cats just, if you're cool with them, they're cool with you.
I love cats. They're the best.
Yeah.
What's your favorite sports team of all time in any sport?
Oh my gosh. University of Miami. Fill in the blank. Any team.
Yeah.
Go Canes.
Went to the U. Who's your favorite athlete of all time in any sport?
Favorite athlete of all time. This one's harder. Probably LeBron James. I'm not really I don't idolize athletes. I didn't grow up thinking, I want to be like so-and-so, but he seems to have a good head on his shoulders, be a good human. He takes his fame with a grain of salt and seems to be giving back as well as just dominating his chosen profession.
I agree with that. I'm also a LeBron fan. I don't understand why he gets a lot of the criticism that he gets, but he lets it roll off his back and is still one of the best in the world. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Ooh, read minds.
Nice.
You could probably, I studied psychology, which is as close as you can get in college. I love people and I'm fascinated by how people's brains work. So I don't think I would want to read their mind as in like, what do they think of me? Or what do they, what's the next Bitcoin? But just more like, what are you thinking about right now? Like, what is going on up there? I'm just curious about that kind of stuff.
And I think you have a cool approach to that with all vlogs and all the content that you make is really focused on the personalities in the volleyball world, which Dan and I have agreed for a million years that we need so much more of that. We need to showcase the personalities and the real people behind the athletes that we see in volleyball. Not enough people are doing that. And I love that you do that. You're really good at that.
Yeah. Well, I actually got inspired from the McKibben brothers. I remember they had there was one video I watched of theirs that they said they think beach volleyball players should be like the Avengers, right? So you see them on court, you see what they're doing and what they're up to, but what you really fall in love with them about is their personality. Like they're not just a great volleyball player, but who is this person really? And I think that's it's so important in every sport. And the reason that you and I love LeBron is not just because he's a great basketball player, but also, whatever else he does in his free time that we're so interested in. That's sort of like celebrity mentality.
Right.
There's so many interesting characters in volleyball and I wish we could meet them all and vlog them all.
Totally. And showcasing those personalities is an opportunity for volleyball to grow stateside, which we can talk about in a little bit. What sport are you the second best at other than volleyball?
Beach volleyball? Does that count or is that cheating?
Nice try.
I've been getting really good at swimming recently. My sister has small kids, so I feel like I'm in the pool literally every day, and all they want to do is just chase you back and forth. So I feel like I'm always just swimming one direction or another to try and avoid being climbed on like a farm animal. So swimming is probably my best
That's awesome.
sport at the moment.
I was a swimmer in high school. I speak that language a little bit.
There you go.
Good times.
There you go.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Me too. What is your favorite color?
Blue.
Mine too. I've
wait a minute.
Oh yeah.
Did you write down these answers and I'm just copying them?
Nope.
The listeners are like, wait a minute.
I have a blue microphone. I have 2 blue guitars behind me. I think I'm an open book on that one. And then the last one, which I really like. What's a stronger feeling for you? Loving winning or hating losing?
Loving winning. I don't feel strong feelings of hate for anything. So I just really,
you're one of the most positive people I've ever met.
I would much rather just love whatever it is that's happening than hate it, because you just feel better.
You do.
Way. Just feel better when you have overwhelmingly.
But you can't lie and say that you don't hate losing to some degree. You're a professional athlete. You have to hate losing a little bit.
You have to, yeah. I'm adverse to losing, but I don't actually hate it, which is maybe why I didn't actually go on to be, one of the great players, is because I don't have that burning desire not to lose.
Yeah, I think you did pretty well for yourself. Okay, so I want to well done. You survived the rapid fire questions.
Was I correct? Did I? Yeah. What score did I get?
Yes.
A+.
Yep. Yeah. You don't get a score. You either survive or you don't. You survived.
Oh, okay.
So I'm in. I want to talk a little more about Athletes Unlimited and how it fits in the landscape and just the different approaches and the things and the consequences towards professional volleyball in the US. And first, I want to talk about something that, like, some people have asked me my takes on this and why I haven't talked about it on the show yet. And that's the situation with Taylor Sander right now. Have you heard about this?
Taylor Sander? No.
Like men's outside hitter Taylor Sander. So he is not playing club indoor this season. He had a deal with Skra Belkotov in Poland, who he played for last year. Yeah. That it sounds like the deal broke apart for several rumored reasons. But the weird thing is that it was announced on an AVP broadcast, like for Beach. I can't remember if it was Manhattan Beach or Chicago or whenever it was, like whatever tournament it was. They live on the broadcast announced that Taylor Crabb, who's an unbelievable beach player, his story from the Olympics, like testing positive for COVID when he got there. Taylor Crabb, who's been playing with, terrible. Taylor Crabb's been playing with Jake Gibb, who's in his 40s. I think there's the tournament going on right now that's going to be Gibb's last tournament, and Crabb's looking for a new partner. And it was announced on an AVP broadcast that Taylor Sander was going to be Taylor Crabb's new beach partner. And so people have asked me for my takes on this. I think I'm still in denial about it because Taylor Sander is probably my favorite indoor player in the world. And just the idea of his indoor career being cut, or him retiring from that like 2 Olympic cycles too early is crazy to me. And I haven't really, well, the only thing we've heard was that it was said on like live by the commentators on an AVP broadcast. And
who was commentating?
I think Marlo and Kevin Barnett, I think. And like that, it would be really bad journalism to say that on a broadcast without it like actually being the case. And sure enough, like Sander he's still just like surfing in Southern California.
Hasn't denied it.
Oh no, he's been avoiding all contact from his club in Poland. There's like a lot of weird stuff going on. Some of the rumors are that his wife, who I believe is pregnant with their second child, is sick of the overseas lifestyle. She doesn't want to go back to Europe or to China or to the Middle East or the different places that Taylor has played throughout his career. She's like, I want to stay home. I have our second baby on the way. Like the lifestyle of not just a professional volleyball player, but a professional volleyball player's wife and family is really, really difficult. I think that is a non-zero factor in Taylor's decision, apparently, to switch to the beach. Now, I'm kind of waiting on until we hear something from him directly, or from Crabb, or from the national team. We have heard from his Polish club for sure that he will not be there this season, but there's a lot of weird rumors and uncertainty around that right now. But the takeaway that I get from all that is that we need to give American players an opportunity to play stateside. If USA Volleyball is going to lose a top 5 outside hitter in the world And the only player, in my opinion, on the men's team at the Olympics who really, really played well in every match, if they're going to lose that player like 2 Olympic cycles too early because the lifestyle of playing indoor all year round is too difficult, that is just a crime for that organization to allow that to happen. And we must give those guys and girls an opportunity to play domestically. That's my biggest takeaway from that. Like, a player of Taylor Sanders' caliber saying, I'm done with the lifestyle that you so well documented earlier is so difficult. And you did it for so long. It's so difficult. You're playing 12 months out of the year. You're away from your family for 9 months out of the year. Really, really hard to do that. So if a player of his caliber is saying, I'm done, then what other American players are on the verge of saying the same thing?
Well, I have 2 points to make on that. I guess the first one is I can't really comment on it because I don't know the actuality of it, but I do know Kevin Barnett and I know Taylor, and they're both kind of funny guys. Like, I wouldn't put it past them to be playing a big joke on the volleyball community. Like, they're kind of like that. They're kind of goofballs. So if he hasn't come out and made a statement, like, I just wouldn't give it too much thought. But the other part of that is you're 100% right. If it is true that a player of his caliber is cutting his career short because he doesn't have the chance to play stateside, then absolutely, I think it's just another pebble into the bucket of reasons why the US definitely needs to have a pro league, especially now that I know that pro leagues have been trying to be started up over the years in the 80s, and they're slowly coming to fruition. But now that everything is so easy to access online, I mean, there's no reason that we couldn't put something together for volleyball fans to be able to access without being there live. So I think 100% I'm on board with Athletes Unlimited is taking a step in that direction. The VLA taking a step in that direction. I hope that sponsors will come on board and see the potential in it. And if big name players like Taylor and anyone else fill in the blank that's having to play overseas with this really difficult long season and the lifestyle that comes with it, if the money were on par, that they would play in the US in a heartbeat, I think.
I asked Ryan Millar on this show, who is a starting
Crossnet.
middle, Crossnet guy.
Crossnet podcast,
yeah. His show's great, by the way. Check out the episode I had with him and the episode all he does in the Crossnet show. I asked him that. I said, what percentage of the money that you, like, he played for Trentino, he played for like really, really good clubs in Europe. Like, what percentage of the salary that you made, like, at the top of your club career, what percentage of that would you have taken to stay home and play in the US? And he said 50%. He said he would have taken a 50% pay cut if he could still, like, survive on that money and stay home and play. And that was shocking to me to hear that. Speaking of, like, getting the big names on board and playing with a league of that caliber, Jordan Larson, Bethania De La Cruz, Sheila Castro, a couple players that played in the Olympics, some that are playing like overseas right now. I want to hear more about Athletes Unlimited because Val Nickel, another Purdue girl, is a good friend of mine. I've talked to her about this, but I haven't had anybody on the show yet who was there. So I want to hear from you about, first, tell me about the volleyball piece, because my concern watching from far away was the whole switching teams every week thing. I understand it because it is cool to get everyone to play with different people, and to, like, I know, like, Athletes Unlimited from the top, their strategy is for the individual players to earn the points in the whole scoring system, which is very cool. But I thought the level of volleyball might suffer a little bit because right when you start to build continuity as a team, your team changes. So what was your experience with that, the on-court volleyball piece, like adjusting to new teammates so often on the court? How was that for you?
I thought it was really, really cool. I mean, I didn't play that much on court, so my experience is,
which was a shame.
Is a little bit limited.
We wanted to see more of you on court.
Well, you trust me, the level was good without me. I'm an old lady by now. I was like, I'm just happy to be here. It was interesting. Yeah, even in the trainings, you could feel that you really had to learn fresh every single week, and you really only had like 3 days to get to know your teammates, it was strange, but it also contributed to this kind of like keeping everything really exciting and fast paced. And And we were there for what, like 5 weeks, I think was the season. And a couple of weeks before that was preseason. But so for someone like me, it was awesome. I really only wanted a short season. I couldn't have committed to an 8-month season like overseas. My body was just like, nope, you're done. But so it was, I mean, I think it adds an element of excitement for players as well as fans. I would like to think that people could get into the idea of having a different captain choose her team, and you kind of like get on board and you cheer every month based on who she picks, and then that's your team for the week. But traditional sports mentality is, these are my colors, I bleed orange and green, and everyone else is the enemy. So if we can just like get away from that mentality and think a little bit outside of that box, I think it's a really interesting structure that has room to grow, and it's really creative and the first of its kind. And I love it. I loved it, but I can see the criticism from the outside for sure.
Yeah, I think it's just different, and I will give all the credit in the world to Athletes Unlimited for trying different things in a volleyball context. That's something that if volleyball in general is going to break through to professional level in the States, it's been tried before, and we've got to try different things instead of trying the same things again. A new format like that is fascinating, and it's so different. It's cool. You learn about it, you figure it out, and you understand like the consequences of points for players and the standings in that way, and all the points for winning sets and matches and all that. It was very, very interesting. I loved learning about it, and I loved watching it, even if it was different than the volleyball that I was used to consuming before. I love that they went out on a limb and tried something like that.
And that's the thing, is that they had, at this stage, they're competing already with all of the college teams that are in the States. If you're a college fan, you've already got your team. They're competing with the overseas teams. They kind of had to just step out and be like, all right, let's give you something that you can't get anywhere else. And this is what they come up with. So whether you love it or hate it, once you get to know the point system, like you said, you can follow along, and there's some kind of added element of drama there. But I think it will take a little bit of getting used to. So maybe 5 years down the road, we'll have this conversation, and you and I could be like, we knew it would work. It was, we were the only two that were on board with it, or it goes the other way. But hopefully people get on board.
Well, already a good sign is that Athletes Unlimited season 2 is coming back. What's the timetable? What do you know about it so far? Are they bringing you down to vlog it all again?
Definitely.
What's the plan?
Well, I definitely plan on being involved somehow. I had a great experience. I love the people that are putting the whole thing together. And obviously I made a lot of friends, teammates, and I really do hope to be involved and do lots of vlogging and letting people know what's going on behind the scenes. Because I think that's half the fun of it, is seeing behind the curtain, so to speak. Because like we talked about with the VNL, you see this really perfect finished production, but as soon as you get to like step behind the curtain, that's where the really interesting stuff is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's going to happen again around the same time next year.
Awesome.
So stay tuned.
I'm excited to follow it. So before we wrap up, I want to give the people a little bit of info, a little bit of VLA info of what they can look forward to. First of all, everybody who's new, the VLA is a professional men's league, and we don't have the cool individual format like Athletes Unlimited has. We have I guess more traditional, like static teams from cities or states and places that have got some pretty big names, some really good volleyball that we're excited. The season starts in January. It'll run through early July of next year. We're going to be all over the country. 8 teams playing in Tier 1 this year. A lot of teams playing in Tier 2. We've got kind of in Italy, they have tier like Italy, Serie A, B, like however they say it in Italian, the different levels of the different leagues, and there's promotion, relegation, all that. We've got that. It's very cool. Love the format. If you want to learn a lot more about what's going on this upcoming VLA season, me and my boy Vince are restarting Around the VLA, which is kind of our YouTube live show. Stay tuned for info on that. We'll come back and start doing it on Mondays just to explain the changes at the league level and what's going on, what to expect for this season. So make sure you follow the VLA at VLA Volleyball on Instagram, and make sure you follow Key at VB_CI on Instagram.
Yes.
And at Key.
And hopefully maybe I'll come out and vlog. Oh yes. And on YouTube as well. All of the socials. Maybe I'll come out and vlog one of your tournaments.
That would be huge. We will be, the closest we'll be to Florida is Orlando in June.
Perfect. That's 3 hours for me.
I can do that. Off the top of my head, we've got Indiana, Chicago, New York, Boston, California, Arizona, at the very least, all on the schedule. We're going to be all over the place. It's going to be a very fun season.
Nice. Well, I hope it's successful.
Thank you, Key. You are awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I hope everybody got to know you and follows you and gets to see all the cool vlogs of behind the scenes of all the cool things you've gotten to do this year. And I love that we finally got to connect. This is great.
Me too. This was really fun. It's been a while. Like we talked about at the very beginning, I kind of took a little break from making volleyball content, but I feel like this is the moment to get back on it. I need to just jump back in. I forget how much I love talking about volleyball. I'm like, been hanging out with my sister and her kids and my parents, and I'm like, no one there cares about volleyball. And we need to geek out more often.
Well, you know where to find me whenever you want to geek out about volleyball. Okay. Thanks everyone for listening. We will see you guys in the next one.
Bye, everyone.